How to cancel your Australian gym membership without extra fees, 2025. What if I told you that canceling your gym membership in Australia could be harder than breaking a lease? You signed up with the best intentions, promising yourself that this time you'd finally stick to a workout routine. But life happens. Maybe you got too busy, maybe your financial situation changed, or maybe, just maybe, you realized that the gym isn't for you. So you go to cancel, expecting a simple process. But then, bam, you're hit with unexpected fees, a complicated cancellation policy, or even outright resistance from the gym staff. You're not alone. Thousands of Australians face the same struggle every year. You walk into the gym thinking you can just fill out a form and be done with it. Instead, you're met with vague terms, contract loopholes, and sometimes flat-out misinformation. Some gyms even keep charging you after you've canceled. Others require months of notice or charge hefty exit fees. And let's not even talk about those aggressive sales tactics where they guilt-trip you into staying. But here's the thing. Most of these fees and conditions aren't as unavoidable as they make it seem. Many gyms rely on people not knowing their rights. They count on confusion, frustration, and sometimes even intimidation to keep you locked into a contract you no longer want. And that's where this video comes in. By the end of this, you'll know exactly how to cancel your gym membership in Australia without paying a cent more than you legally have to. We'll go through the fine print, the legal loopholes, and the strategies that actually work. And here's a surprising fact. In many cases, you have more rights than your gym will ever admit. So if you've ever felt trapped in a gym contract you no longer want, keep watching, because by the end of this, you'll be able to walk away from your membership without the headaches, without the stress, and most importantly, without those ridiculous extra fees. But before we dive in, I want to hear from you. Have you ever had trouble canceling a gym membership? What was your experience like? Drop a comment below. I read every single one, and I'd love to know how gyms have handled your cancellation requests. And if you find this information useful, consider hitting that like button. It really helps get this video out to more people who might be struggling with the same issue. And of course, if you want to stay informed about your rights when it comes to business, contracts, and consumer law in Australia, don't forget to subscribe to Aussie Legal Insights. All right, let's get into it. Now, before we dive into the step-by-step process, let's take a moment to understand the legal background of gym contracts. Like a mobile phone plan. You sign up thinking you'll get great value, but if you ever try to leave, you're suddenly locked into complicated terms. In Australia, gym memberships fall under consumer contracts, which means they are governed by the Australian Consumer Law, ACL, Schedule 2 of the Competition and Consumer Act 2010. This law protects consumers from unfair contract terms and deceptive practices, but many people don't realize just how much protection they actually have. For example, did you know that a gym can't legally enforce an unfair cancellation policy? If the contract is deemed overly restrictive or contains hidden fees that weren't clearly disclosed, it may be considered void under consumer protection laws. That means if your gym is making it impossible for you to cancel, you may have legal grounds to dispute their terms. There's also the issue of automatic renewals. Many gyms in Australia operate on a rolling contract basis, meaning that even after your initial term ends, they continue charging you unless you explicitly cancel. Some people don't even realize they're still being billed until months later. But here's the catch. If a gym failed to clearly explain their automatic renewal policy up front, you might not be bound by it at all. Another important point is cooling off periods. In most states, gyms are required to offer a cooling off period after you sign up, usually between 7 and 14 days. This gives you the legal right to change your mind and cancel without any penalty. But not all gyms make this clear, and some may even try to deny it exists. These cooling off rights are further supported by Fair Trading Act's state and territory laws, which provide additional consumer protections at the state level. And let's not forget direct debit disputes. If your gym keeps charging you after cancellation, you have the right to dispute those transactions with your bank. The Australian Competition and Consumer Commission, ACCC, has strict guidelines on unauthorized charges, meaning you can take action if you're being billed unfairly. So now that you understand the legal foundation, let's move on to how you can use this knowledge to successfully cancel your gym membership. Some of the biggest myths about canceling gym memberships in Australia. Myth number 1. If you signed a contract, you're stuck no matter what. Not true. While contracts are legally binding, they must also comply with consumer protection laws. If your contract includes unfair terms, like excessive cancellation fees or impossible notice periods, it may not be enforceable. The ACL protects consumers from unfair contract terms, which means you have rights even if you've signed on the dotted line. Myth number 2. You must give at least 30 days notice. Many gym contracts include a 30-day or longer cancellation notice period, but did you know that this isn't always legally enforceable? If a gym enforces an excessive notice period that wasn't clearly explained to you up front, you may be able to challenge it. Always check whether the notice requires requirement is fair and reasonable under the ACL. Myth number 3. If you cancel early, you must pay out the rest of the contract. This is another misleading claim. While some contracts include exit fees, they must be reasonable. If your circumstances have changed, such as illness, relocation, or financial hardship, you may have grounds to exit the contract without penalty. Some states even have consumer protections in place that require gyms to offer fair exit options. Myth number 4. Verbal cancellations are enough. Never rely on verbal agreements when canceling a gym membership. Many people have been told over the phone or in person that their membership is canceled, only to keep getting charged. Always request written confirmation of your cancellation, whether it's an email or a formal cancellation letter. Myth number 5. Gyms can keep charging you after you cancel. Some gyms continue charging customers even after they've canceled, blaming processing delays or billing cycles. But under the ACL, unauthorized charges are illegal. If you've canceled and are still being billed, you can dispute the charges with your bank and file a complaint with the ACCC. Understanding these myths is key to standing up for your rights. Now, let's move on to some key legal concepts you need to know. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe to Aussie Legal Insights, and check out our next deep dive into Australian law. See you in the next one.